binder of all the individuals that were homeless with pictures that were causing problems on campus. He was going through them with me. And he flips, there's Jesse. He's like, I don't know what happened to this guy. Maybe he died or something. No, he went to mental health court. This is where he's at now. He's like, oh, you can take him out of that binder. He's never coming back.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, so I'm Jesse Fierro. I'm the second graduate of mental health court, and I believe mental health court was the first of the 5 diversion courts we have. I have some notes here to help me out that I kind of took while I was sitting back there. So just of the kind of hats I wear in the community now, I want to start with what I do now and then kind of backtrack. And excuse me, we should have done the emotional stuff after I get up here. But and as Chris mentioned, improving lives, like my life has absolutely improved. So I'm alumni of Mental Health Court. I'm alumni of Walter's House. Mental Health Court funded my 90 days at Walter's House. Then I went to an SLE, sober living environment, on 4th Street, also through 4th and Hope. And that, the housing, the 90-day stay, like I said, was funded by Mental Health Court. I just celebrated 10 years of continuous sobriety and a 12-step program. April 11, 2014, which is that last one there, the last time I was arrested. And since I got clean and sober, I have not been arrested. I have not lived on the street since then. There's just all kinds of stuff that stopped happening because of this transformation. I do a 12-step H&I at Cache Creek Lodge here in town. Cache Creek is another rehab here. There's Walter's House in Cache Creek. H&I is when I do hospitals and institutions. I take the 12-step message to those people who are like in the institutions I used to be finding myself in all the time. I do crisis intervention with law enforcement. I'm not doing any training, but I'm just doing like I'm doing now, telling my story in front of law enforcement so that they know there's hope for some of us because they run into people like me, people like I was back then. And obviously these all represent interactions with law enforcement, and those law enforcement are like, man, this guy is like hopeless. I mean, look at him. And now they can kind of get a little bit of inspiration maybe and see, okay, some of these people do cycle through. And I like to tell them, a lot of the people I was homeless with in Davis at the time have moved on to do bigger, better things. Some of them are dead, but some of them have moved on, and there's really only a few that are still out there. The numbers have grown, but they're all kind of new people that are in Davis right now. I also do something I started within the last 6 months, Yolo transient debris collection. I was out of work because I needed a surgery on a hernia, and I had way too much time on my hand. I'm like, maybe I should start a GoFundMe. And it was just to kind of make sure I was going to do okay financially. But within minutes, I'm like, let's make this about being of service, not about me. And I came up with this idea to basically make dump runs for homeless camps. I concentrate on Davis mainly because that's where all my wreckage was, and that's where a lot of people used to clean up after me when I would kind of ping pong around from camp to camp and stuff. I clean up abandoned camps, and when they're active camps, I kind of get their permission, make sure I'm not taking the stuff they want. If they help me, I give them gift cards, stuff like that. And it's been pretty successful. And it's been nice to be validated because I'm on the Multicultural Community Council as well, and some of my colleagues in the DA's office have chipped in and helped out my GoFundMe, and they're like, yeah, this is good stuff. They like what I'm doing, so that's neat. I've also heard from the Davis Police Department, and the sheriffs have even interacted with me when I'm out there, and they're like, not sure at first if I'm one of the homeless people or what I'm doing out there because I have these grubby clothes on, but anyway, it's been kind of fun. It's pretty neat because when I was homeless and I was out there in that environment, I used to get real defensive when law enforcement showed up, but now I can see, oh wow, I react completely different now. I'm a Class A commercial truck driver. I've been doing that for 8 years, and for a little over a year now, I've been hauling fuel in the Bay Area. So it's pretty neat that I have these federal clearances to have a hazmat endorsement and to have a TWIC card, which is through the TSA. And for someone like me, with all this stuff, to have those clearances is pretty neat, and again, pretty amending and validating. And for funsies, I do mountain biking content. This guy was a chronic bike thief, and now I have bikes that I like actually paid for, and I get out there and I make all this bike content with my GoPro. Which, by the way, I have my GoPro here because I wanted to see kind of how this goes later tonight. See how fluent I am at the speaking and everything, you know. So this guy, I was an alcoholic. At some point, I became an IV meth addict. I was certainly using meth the whole time. The IV stuff came later. And my kind of like cycle was sleep it off for a couple days because I'd be on a bender for days and days and days. Sleep it off, wake up all groggy in the tent, cart my butt down to the grocery store, steal a 12-pack of Rolling Rock or Pabst Blue Ribbon to kind of like get the sugars going again, get the courage going again, hydrate myself, but you know, who wants water? That's boring. And then that would give me enough courage to go peel some bikes from some apartment buildings or campus or whatever and get the other stuff, and then it's on and cracking again. I'm up for days and days doing whatever I'm doing out there until, you know, I get tired enough to sleep again for a couple days and just do that over and over again. So the diversion court. I'm here mainly to talk about the diversion court. By the time April 2014 rolls around, so that last arrest picture, I'd only been out of jail 2 weeks. If you see here, I'm a little bit healthier because I was only out of jail 2 weeks from here, and this was a raid. Like, I remember kind of like what was going on in a lot of these. I'm not going to explain all of them, but this was a raid. I was actually at a house for once, but kind of like a trap house for Davis standards. And so I'm looking healthy because I've been in jail and I'd been eating and kind of programming. And you'll see a little bit of a smile on my face in those last two. I think what was going on is I was getting more used to jail, and I started getting jobs in the branch, the honor branch, you know. And so I kind of had a purpose. The other ones, all before that, like I hated jail. I had wanted nothing to do with it. The law enforcement was getting in my way of like what I wanted to do, and I just wanted to go get drunk and high. So the diversion court, I was sick and tired of living that lifestyle. And, you know, at first I didn't really know what it was. I think the mental health court had been around like a year at that point. And I think there were only like 8 people at that time, if I remember correctly. And I remember Jeffrey Prenter from, it was Yolo Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health back then. It's now Health and Human Services. Came out because, you know, the people in the courtroom knew what I'd been up to. I was 160 pounds. My rap sheet was like just all these petty crap: possession of stolen property, receiving stolen property, bike lights, camping tickets, shoplifting, like you name it. Every misdemeanor under the sun. And so it was obvious to them what I was up to. And it was just kind of towards the end there that like I started kind of being willing to be helped. I started talking to the psychs in the jail. They started being able to like prescribe me medication and stuff like that. And that's what made me eligible to get into mental health court with some diagnosis for obviously mental health stuff. And you know, when Jeffrey Prenter came to like see if I wanted to get into the program, I was like, I don't know, I mean, I'm not doing this just to like satisfy some bureaucrat. And I didn't know what bureaucrat meant. It was actually in sobriety. I Googled bureaucrat. And I was like, okay, I'm using it in the right context. But like really, Jeffrey Prenter came back and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. What do I have to lose, you know? And I did it. And then I met Miss Transfelia, a probation officer who was my probation officer for the duration. June 2nd, 2014, the day after my belly button birthday, she gave me a ride in the back of a probation car and cuffs and everything to Walter's house, and that's where it all started. My experience with diversion court is it was the 18-month period. I finished successfully without any trip-ups. I was the second graduate, and what it looked like is for the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 phases, it was every 2 weeks, and I was coming from only a couple blocks away, 4th Street, where the Walter's house and the SLE was. And it became kind of like addicting to get that positive feedback. I was telling the judge and the people in the court what I'd been up to improve myself. And it was, I mean, at first it was like get an ID, get a social security card, get toothbrush, toothpaste, get my meds, stuff like that. And like it just became kind of addicting to like get the feedback and like to go every 2 weeks and just to be a part of that. I think while I was there, it grew to like 12 people. And it's just mind-blowing when they were saying earlier that it's 30 people now. And I've been going to the graduations and stuff recently, but I really didn't count. I'm like, man, 30 people, that's pretty amazing, especially when you take into consideration that there's also 4 other diversion courts and all those people getting help. And I go to make sure they know that there's success stories and that, they have a chance too. After a while, it became just every 4 weeks. And like that little stuff, getting an ID, getting a social security card, ended up getting a driver's license. I had been so far removed from having a vehicle that like my criminal history had nothing to do with vehicles, so I had somewhat of a clean driving history. So I was able to get an ID without paying too many fines, but I had some stuff. And then I think like just days prior to my graduation, I'd gotten a Class A license. That was because my first job in recovery, about a little over a year sober, I started hauling tomato trailers over at the cannery. And you don't need a license to do that because it's on private property. And it was a grueling 7 12-hour shifts graveyard. And that's when we figured out maybe I didn't need to get disability. Because this whole time I was kind of like looking forward to maybe getting disability so that, if I go back to the streets, at least I have an income coming in, because before I had just had to like hawk other people's bikes and stuff, right? That's 8 years I've been a truck driver now, and it's just been amazing. Every little step of the way has just been baby steps, and it's just mind-blowing that like this guy who didn't have a whole lot of success at anything in life